Hey folks, welcome back. Today we're going to be tying our Scaddis Nymph. We generally tie this between size 16 and 12 on a standard scud hook. This got the name Scaddis because it's kind of a blend of a caddis nymph and a scud. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in some brassy sized copper UTC ultra wire. And I'm using a 6/0 brown thread here. The first thing that I'm going to tie in here is a little bundle of olive supreme hair. This is a nice monofilament kind of based hair that's going to do some pretty cool looking things later once we get to the final steps. So I just tie that down to the bend of the hook, and then I'm going to work my thread back towards the front because now we're going to tie in some light tan supreme hair, and we'll do the same thing, keeping the bulk of that hair up towards the top of our hook and wrapping it slightly down the bend. Now we'll advance our thread back to the front, and the first thing we'll do is we will wrap that body with the tan supreme hair, overlapping things a little bit as we progress it forward. Once we get towards the front of the hook with that material, we're going to build that up a little bit more to give us somewhat of a tapered body. So you can see I'm kind of wrapping back on those wraps a little bit, and then I'm advancing back to the front, and then we'll capture that and we'll tie it off, and then we'll trim out that excess to get it out of our way. Now this part is a little fiddly to get started. I'm going to use our ultra wire here to tie down that olive supreme hair, but I want it to be just on the back. And this will be epoxied later, so this doesn't have to be super tight, but try to keep that olive right up along the back of the hook shank. And as I rib with this ultra hair, I'm also using it to basically bind down that supreme hair up on the top. And then once we wrap that up to the front here, I'm going to capture it with the thread and tie everything down right up there at the front. You can see I'm not going all the way to the eye because we're going to tie in some more materials later. So helicopter out that wire, and then you'll trim off the excess supreme hair. Now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to clean up that head a little bit, bind down some of those loose fibers and just get things looking better. And I'm going to whip finish here because I'm actually going to cut my thread so that I can apply the epoxy to the body. So I'm just going to come in with some UV epoxy, and I'm going to apply it pretty liberally, get everything nice and saturated because we actually want this epoxy to soak in. And then I come in and I dab off some of that excess if I have too much. Once that's allowed to soak in a little bit, I'm going to come in with my light and I'm going to go ahead and set that epoxy. Now that the epoxy is set, I'm going to tie my thread back in up at the front. And then I'm going to come in with some rainbow sow scud dubbing, and I'm going to build up a little bit of a head on this fly. You can see the way that epoxy bleeds through that supreme hair. You get this wonderfully natural looking translucent body, and it just looks so wonderfully slimy and buggy. Trout can mistake this for a myriad of aquatic critters, everything from scuds to caddis nymphs, you name it. Adapt what you wrap underneath and the colors you use, and you can get a ton of effects. Tight lines.